What happens when stadium expansions meant to save clubs end up destroying them instead? In England, over £1 billion vanished into colossal stands, retractable roofs, and half-built shells that promised glory but delivered empty seats and debt. How did these engineering dreams become disasters that killed entire football clubs? Welcome to Big Builds. London Stadium. The London Stadium, once the shining heart of the 2012 Olympic Games, was a marvel of temporary engineering. It was designed to hold 80,000 people for the Olympics, with a plan to shrink it down to a 25,000-seat venue afterward for long-term use. But then, West Ham United Football Club stepped in, promising a new era of top-flight football in a massive 62,500 capacity home. The core challenge here was a fundamental conflict of purpose. An Olympic stadium is built for athletics, featuring a 400-meter running track around the field. A football stadium, however, needs its fans close to the pitch to create that intense, electric atmosphere. The attempt to force a venue designed for long-distance running into a home for close-quarters football created inherent engineering compromises that simply could not be fully fixed. To bridge the wide gap created by the 400-meter running track, engineers had to design a complex movable seating system. This system involves massive sections of seating that slide on air skates pushed by heavy-duty forklifts. Then, additional modules are lifted into place by cranes. It's like assembling a giant Lego set every time the stadium needs to switch from athletics to football mode. This setup is incredibly complicated and uses bespoke aluminum alloy components. While aluminum is lighter, making it easier to move, it is also 3 times less strong and stiff compared to steel, making these parts prone to damage during the frequent transformations. The constant, complex conversion process introduced significant operational challenges and long-term maintenance burdens, directly impacting both cost and reliability. This is because the system has many different seating types and parts, lacks stability during movement, and the slope of the athletics track makes it even harder to move the seats. The choice of materials, while helping with mobility, hurt the system's durability, leading to ongoing repairs and safety concerns. This constant need for fixes and replacements means the system's expected lifespan is quite short, often only 10 to 20 years. The goal of making the stadium multi-purpose led to a system that is fragile and expensive to run, turning what seemed like a good idea into a long-term problem. Despite attracting large crowds, the London Stadium often feels empty during football matches. The wide gap created by the running track acts like a moat between fans and players. This distance means fans are far from the action, making it hard to see what's happening at the other end of the pitch and killing the noise and passion that makes English football special. The atmosphere, which was once feared by opposing teams at West Ham's Old Boleyn ground, is now often described as feeling like a library, even when the stadium is packed. The Old Boleyn ground, with its 35,000 capacity, was known for its intense atmosphere. The conversion of the London Stadium was a financial black hole. West Ham contributed only £15 million to the conversion costs. However, the overall cost to convert the stadium into a dual-use arena skyrocketed to £323 million, with the vast majority of this bill covered by taxpayers. The total combined cost of building the stadium for the Olympics and then converting it is now around £740 million. If you think a national stadium conversion can go wrong, wait until you hear about a club that dreamed of a futuristic home with a retractable roof and sliding pitch, only to see those ambitions crumble before the first ball was even kicked. Ricoh Arena. In the late 1990s, Coventry City's chairman, Brian Richardson, had a vision far grander than just a football stadium. He pitched a 45,000-seat arena, aiming for Premier League permanence and even hoping Coventry could host England's new national stadium. The original design was truly state-of-the-art, featuring a retractable roof that could open and close, and a pitch that could slide out from under the stands to reveal a hard floor for concerts and other events. This was a highly complex engineering feat, similar to the sliding pitch at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which cost over £1 billion to build, or the retractable roof of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, a project that cost around $1.5 billion. However, the dream quickly turned sour. Coventry City was relegated from the Premiership in May 2001, even before the stadium opened its doors. This sudden drop in league status, combined with the contractors and financiers pulling out of the project and England's failed bid for the 2006 World Cup, forced a drastic scaling back of the plans. The futuristic retractable roof and sliding pitch were abandoned. The stadium that was finally built in 2005 for £113 million was a much more basic 32,500-seat venue, a shadow of its original grand design. Sporting performance and outside economic factors directly impacted whether these complex engineering features were even possible. The Ricoh Arena, with its 32,753 seats for football matches, consistently saw vast swathes of empty seats. In some seasons, like 2012 to 2013, average crowds crashed to just 10,948, barely a third of its capacity. Even in the more recent 2024 to 2025 season, with a higher average attendance of around 27,000, the stadium still has over 5,000 empty seats on average. This makes it look half empty on television, which is the exact opposite of what a club wants to show. This mismatch between the stadium's size and the actual demand created massive financial problems, with the club struggling to cover the running costs of such an oversized venue. For over a decade, Coventry City was trapped in a bitter ownership dispute over the stadium. The club was forced to relocate twice, playing home games at Northampton Town's Sixfields Stadium and then Birmingham City's St. Andrews. These legal battles and forced exiles completely destroyed the club's business plan and psychological connection with its fan base. From a stadium that lost its grand features to one that was never even finished, our next story reveals how grand promises and public money can create concrete monuments to fraud. Sixfields Stadium. In 2013, Northampton Town's chairman, David Cardoza, unveiled ambitious plans to expand Sixfields Stadium from 7,800 to 10,000 seats. The centerpiece was a new east stand designed to include executive boxes, conference facilities, a hotel complex, and modern amenities. All of this was aimed at bringing in championship-level revenue. The club's ambition far outstripped its financial capacity and the reality of its market, leading to a reliance on outside, often questionable funding sources. This is a common pattern where smaller clubs try to jump into a higher financial league through big building projects. Construction on the East Stand began in summer 2014, but it quickly became a symbol of chaos. The project was plagued by delays, and by October 2014, work stopped due to a contractual dispute. For years, fans stared at a rusting steel skeleton and a half-built concrete shell. The stand, originally planned for 4,000 supporters, was scaled down to about 3,100, with some seats even having restricted views. It was clearly visible on the live television broadcasts, becoming free advertising for failure. Poor project management, financial problems, and a lack of clear information turned a construction site into a public embarrassment, directly hurting fan morale and the club's reputation. The engineering failure was not just in the design, but in the basic way the project was managed and overseen. The reason for the unfinished stand was a shocking scandal. A £10.25 million loan from Northampton Borough Council, meant solely for stadium development and a hotel, simply vanished. Police investigations, codenamed Operation Tuckhill, eventually led to fraud and money laundering charges against former chairman David Cardoza and others in January 2025. This was an alleged criminal act that left taxpayers on the hook for millions. By the time the East Stand finally opened in March 2025, after years of delays, Northampton Town's average attendance for the 2024 to 2025 season was around 6,568. This meant the original capacity of the stadium, which was 7,800, would have been completely fine. Let's move to another club that gambled on a corporate dream, only to be left with a concrete shell and a stadium that felt too big for its own good. Boundary Park. In 2009, Oldham Athletics chairman Simon Corney arrived with grand plans for Boundary Park. He envisioned transforming the ground into a £20 million event center, packed with hospitality suites, meeting rooms, and corporate facilities. The idea was that these commercial ventures would bankroll the club's return to the championship, turning a football stadium into a year-round business hub. This shows a common mistake, thinking that a lower league club in a smaller town can attract the kind of high-end corporate market usually found in big cities. The engineering design was based on a business model that was simply not realistic. The execution was a disaster from day one. Construction delays and cash problems left fans sitting in an unfinished concrete shell for years. There was even a fire during construction, damaging 40 square meters of the roof. The project was meant to be a financial savior, but it became a symbol of disarray. Poor project management and financial instability directly led to physical construction failures and long delays, turning what was supposed to be a valuable asset into a constant problem. By 2015, the club chairman issued a public apology for the failure. The North Stand, meant to be a beacon of corporate success, was eventually shut down for safety fixes in 2021. Even as of June 2025, with a new £75 million sports town development underway around Boundary Park, the original North Stand remains a problem. The current capacity of Boundary Park is 13,513 seats, but the club often has whole sections closed off because operating them would cost too much money and destroy revenue. The failure to complete and safely run the stand created a physical barrier to making money and a constant reminder of past mistakes, trapping the club in a cycle of poor performance. Simon Corney's hospitality White Elephant was designed for a business conference market that simply never came to Oldham. The club's revenue plummeted, and they eventually dropped into non-league football. The average home attendance for Oldham Athletic in the 2024 to 2025 season was around 6,008, less than half the stadium's capacity. The stadium project, which was supposed to be a financial engine, instead became a major drain, speeding up the club's decline. Next, let's look at a club whose entire home ground was left to crumble while they chased a new, elusive dream. Roots Hall. Roots Hall, the historic home of Southend United since 1955, had been neglected for years. Before recent investments, the stadium was in a severe state of disrepair, with leaks, broken seating, and closed stands. It was so bad that the club was even locked out of the ground at one point due to unpaid debts. The stadium, with a current capacity restricted to 10,502 seats, once held a record attendance of over 31,000 people in 1979. However, its condition reflected years of neglect, with one report even stating it nearly did burn to the ground on multiple occasions. The physical deterioration of Roots Hall was a direct result of the club focusing on a new stadium that never actually got built. The engineering challenge here was simply neglected maintenance, leading to a crisis of habitability. For nearly 2 decades, Southend United chased the dream of a shiny new 21,000 capacity stadium at Fawcett's Farm. This project, strongly supported by former chairman Ron Martin, depended entirely on money from proposed nearby retail and leisure developments that simply failed to happen. The plans changed multiple times, from large apartment blocks to family housing. But the stadium itself never moved beyond the drawing board. It was a perpetual crisis, always falling short on promises. The failure of the Fawcett's Farm project was a classic example of relying too much on risky real estate development to pay for a stadium. The building plans were connected to a business model that turned out to be impossible, leading to a cycle of broken promises and financial instability. While chasing the Fawcett's Farm dream, Southend United's debts ballooned to over £17 million by 2019. The club faced multiple winding up orders from HMRC for unpaid taxes, and players and staff often went unpaid. This constant financial instability, partly due to the failed stadium project and the neglect of Roots Hall, led to multiple relegations, eventually pushing the club out of the Football League entirely in 2021. The pursuit of a new stadium that couldn't be built, along with ignoring the old one, created a severe financial crisis that directly hurt the club's performance on the field and led to its near collapse. However, there's a glimmer of hope. A new investment deal has been signed, paving the way for 805 new homes at Fawcett's Farm. This development will now unlock £12 million in phased payments specifically for revamping Roots Hall. The new owners are committed to keeping the club at its historic home and modernizing it. In the 2024 to 2025 financial year, the club increased spending on Roots Hall maintenance to £340,000. They also invested £135,000 to bring back online the Northwest Quadrant, opening up additional usable capacity. This is a costly but necessary effort to fix years of neglect. The average attendance for the next season is projected at over 7,300 people, showing renewed fan interest. The engineering failures, whether a misjudged movable roof, an unfinished stand, or a neglected historic ground, are not isolated incidents. They are symptoms of oversized ambitions that are completely disconnected from reality. Hundreds of millions of pounds of public money, often equivalent to building entire new hospital wings or dozens of schools, were wasted, leaving taxpayers burdened. These concrete monuments to failure didn't just drain bank accounts. They eroded fan trust, shattered club identities, and left lasting scars on communities, proving that the true cost of these engineering mistakes extends far beyond the construction budget. What other mega projects do you think were doomed from the start? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this deep dive into football's biggest blunders fascinating, hit that like button, subscribe to Big Builds, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next investigation into the world's most ambitious and sometimes disastrous construction projects.